I have just finished a Midori B6 Slim for my creative journaling, so I thought I would share this with you today as I flip through. On the cover here, I have a bunch of stickers. These are mine that are available in my shop, and then these are gift tags by Kawi, which is a Korean stationery brand. Then on the back here, I have another gift tag by one of my favorite Korean illustrators, Kang Han. I started this journal with a monthly intention. This was started on the 1st of February, and I wanted to focus on zines, so I have some reflections related to that. I went to a cafe with my parents while they were in town, so these sketches were done there. And then I collected some of the wrapping paper that came with our bread that we ordered, and then added some more from my own collection and journaled to fill the gaps. This is a page I really like, and I like that it came together in these steps where it was started on location but then finished afterwards. Here I took some notes on a podcast episode by Kenning Zhu. This is about money as a creative spiritual practice. And then I had been working on my zine spring practice, so I took some notes on folk art and pasted some artwork from one of my favorite illustrators, Aiko Fukawa. I am pretty into astrology, so I took some notes on the astrology of February and where that coincides in my chart. In February, there was a Saturn conjunction with Neptune happening at 0 degrees in Aries. So when that happened in my 9th house of travel and education and publishing, so I really thought this aligned well with my monthly focus on zines, and I set some intentions of how I can manifest visions through publishing and start to rebuild my spiritual beliefs through experience. And then here I have some notes on the color poems that come within my zine. So I was brainstorming some of the phrases. Here I've collected some scraps of one of the collage artworks in spring practice. If you've seen the making of that video, this will look familiar to you. And then I was reflecting a bit on the process as well as the colors that I really enjoyed using for this edition. At this point in the month, I got really into digital gardening, so I was doing some note-taking on that. I traced my era of digital gardening. I started back in 2020 and then completely forgot about it for at least 2 or 3 years, and then started getting back into it again last year, Obsidian, and then I've published a version that is available online for anyone to see using a Quartz plugin. I was also inspired to add some coffee stains watching Jane's video. I'll link Jane's YouTube channel in the description. She makes really great creative journaling, travel journaling videos. And so this was one that I thought would be a fun addition to my pages. So I really like how this looks green, and I added some washies of flowers to give that gardening vibe and to make something that's still technical be really exciting and tangible. Here I've pasted in some artwork from Flow book, the Flow magazine book. This is the book that I'm talking about, Flow book for paper lovers. And here I wrote a passage from Ali Smith's Winter that I really enjoyed and took some notes on the weather. So the first weekend of February was incredibly cold, probably the coldest it's been in New York, maybe the entire time I've lived here. And I wrote some remedies for the cold, like hot tea and scones and warm jazz, cozy journaling afternoons. Here I have some notes that I've transferred over from my mini notebook. I am working on a article/essay on the performance of documentation. And then here I was reflecting on different parts of my creative journey and what has felt worthwhile and what has been more elusive or not necessarily worth it for me. So, on that end, orienting towards the number of followers or trying to gain an audience on social media, I would say, is at the top end of unfulfilling mirage like efforts. And then the most worthwhile to me is learning for its own sake and then sharing what I've learned, publishing, and sharing it with others. Here I write a bit about being a homebody, which I definitely was for the majority of February. And I really enjoyed this homebody era until perhaps the latter half of February. And I have some notes on how to slow the mind. I printed these little fishies from a Pinterest image, which tied into Pisces season, and wrote some notes about how to slow down. Here I pulled a tarot spread. This is a 3-card past, present, future spread, and it felt really resonant. The present actually, at this point in time on February 12th, led to the devil, and I think through doing this tarot spread, it really led me to think of how I've been restricting myself and how I need to do shadow work. So a lot of shadow work, especially around money and familial beliefs that aren't necessarily mine anymore. I did a lot of journaling and processing around that. And here I have some random stationery tags and bits. I went to go see a musical called Two Strangers Carry a Cake Across New York. So wrote some notes about that. And then I had a date with my sister where we went to 3 different spots to eat and drink. So cataloged that as well. Here I've been taking a class or a group really with, here I've been part of a group organized by Kenning Zoo called Labyrinth Library. It's a seasonal offering where we go through and tend to our creativity based on the astrological signs. And I really like this concept of labyrinth as wayfinding for a career instead of something more linear or something more like a ladder. So I took some notes on that and was reflecting on how energetically I feel across digital, creative, inner, and business aspects. And then now we've reached Lunar New Year, Year of the Fire Horse. I loved these different horse illustrations and symbols, so I pasted that in my journal and noted some intentions for the upcoming Lunar New Year. And then this was when I started to use more paint in my journals. This is a mixture of gouache and watercolor, mostly gouache. I really wanted to explore with some wet on wet, which I normally don't use very much because of its uncontrollability, but I wanted to lean into that, and I just love the effects of water that you can see. That's really the best part of the medium. And then I felt inspired after laying these colors down to write some bits of text, some poetry corresponding to it. And then here, continuing on watercolor, I added this heading with paint, and then I was reflecting on current thresholds that I'm at as of February 22nd, any liminal spaces or transitions. Here I've lettered a quote from Rainier Maria Rilke, "Be patient towards all that is unresolved in your heart." It's one of my favorite quotes, and I really love this multicolored kind of rainbow text lettering technique that I use, so it's one that you'll see pretty often. And here is a random landscape of my imagination, and I was experimenting with dry brushing, which is a technique that I still really need to work on, but I think it does give a very nice effect. Here's just some private notes. And then these sketches were done in Portland while I was hanging out with my friend Inzu. We went to a really lovely cafe behind the museum cafe. We went to the art museum, and then I have a bunch of stamps in here that I got that I was able to use at Oblation Papers and Press. So I really enjoyed doing that. And then I took a lot of baths while I was in Portland because our Airbnb had a very nice bathtub with a ton of salts. So that was very comforting. And Oblation I would highly recommend if you're in the Portland area. I got both of their business cards, which are letterpressed and feel super nice to touch. And the store and all the people who work there are lovely. Here's the random ephemera that I put in my journal from Asian Zine Fest. I also did a reading at the after party organized by Corey Angry. Here I was drawing some folks on Zoom from a meeting that I was on and writing down my secret dreams, which you might have peeped, but I will keep them secret. Then here I just put in more random ephemera and have been documenting the wonderful weather that we've been having in March so far. This is the fall-spring era where it's honestly 70 degrees outside and people are in t-shirts, but it's gonna drop back down again next week and be really cold again. So I went out to the park and was doing some drawing there. And then reflecting on the upcoming spring equinox and doing some painting for the last spread, just some random doodles. And then on the last page, I pasted in my friend Zuzu's monthly postcard. So this is the one from February. And then here are some of my mini notebook pages that I've pasted in here just so it can stay within the same time frame. So that's the full journal. Thank you for watching, and if you'd like to see more of my journals and creative process, please like and subscribe. Bye!